The little girl stood at the edge of the park picnic table, her tiny hands trembling as she moved them in careful, practiced signs. Her eyes were hopeful, but guarded. Across from her sat Daniel, a single father who had only come to the park to escape the silence of his own home. His young son, Noah, stared at the ground beside him, lost in a world few people understood. The girl pointed to herself, and then signed slowly. "I'm alone. Can I join you?" Daniel froze. He had learned basic sign language for Noah, who hadn't spoken since his mother passed away 2 years ago. He understood her perfectly. What he didn't understand was why a child so small carried loneliness so loudly in her eyes. He nodded gently and pulled out a chair. Her name was Lily. She explained that her grandmother, her only family, had been taken to the hospital that morning. The neighbors were busy. No one had time. But when she saw Daniel signing to Noah, she felt brave enough to ask. What happened next changed everything. As Lily laughed and signed animatedly, Noah slowly looked up. For the first time in months, he lifted his hands. Hesitant at first. Then faster. Then smiling. Daniel felt his chest tighten. It wasn't just conversation. It was connection. Two lonely children had found each other in a crowded world. And in offering a seat at a table, Daniel realized he hadn't just made room for a stranger. He had made room for healing. Sometimes, the smallest request carries the biggest miracle. Daniel couldn't stop thinking about Lily after that afternoon. When the sun began to set and parents called their children home, she remained seated, her small backpack resting at her feet. Noah was still signing with her, slowly, carefully, but for the first time in 2 years, there was light in his eyes. Daniel finally asked where she was supposed to go. Lily explained through signs that her grandmother was still in the hospital. A neighbor had dropped her off at the park, promising to return, but hours had passed. She tried to look brave, but her fingers trembled. Something inside Daniel shifted. He remembered the nights after his wife passed away, the empty kitchen, the silence, the way people promised to check in, but life moved on for them. He had learned that loneliness doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like a child waiting on a bench, pretending not to be scared. Daniel made a decision that surprised even him. He called the hospital, confirmed Lily's grandmother was stable, and then gently signed to her. "You can have dinner with us." Her eyes widened. At his small home, Lily helped Noah set the table. They signed and giggled over spilled juice. The house, once heavy with grief, felt warmer. That night, as Daniel tucked Noah into bed, his son signed something he hadn't signed in a long time. Friend. Daniel sat there in the quiet, overwhelmed. He thought he was helping a lonely child for one evening. But in opening his door, he had unknowingly opened his son's heart again. And maybe, his own too. The next morning, Daniel woke to a sound he hadn't heard in years, soft laughter drifting from the kitchen. He stepped out of his room and stopped in the hallway. Lily and Noah were sitting on the floor, cereal bowls between them, signing animatedly. Noah's movements were quicker now, more confident. Lily corrected him playfully, and he rolled his eyes in exaggerated protest. Daniel smiled. It felt normal. Something he thought was gone forever. After breakfast, Daniel took Lily to the hospital to see her grandmother. The elderly woman looked tired but relieved. Through tears, she explained she'd been afraid Lily would be alone if something ever happened to her. There was no other family. No safety net. Daniel understood that fear too well. Over the next few days, he and Noah visited often. Lily became a steady presence in their lives, helping Noah with his signing, drawing pictures for Daniel to hang on the fridge, filling the quiet house with energy. Then came the unexpected twist. One afternoon, Noah tugged at Daniel's sleeve and signed something that made him freeze. "Can Lily stay, always?" Daniel's heart pounded. He wasn't prepared for that question. He was still learning how to breathe again after loss. The idea of opening his life so fully terrified him. But that evening, Lily's grandmother gently took Daniel's hand and whispered, "She feels safe with you. I haven't seen her smile like this in years." Daniel looked at the two children laughing together in the hallway. Sometimes family isn't about who you lose. Sometimes it's about who finds you when you least expect it. And Daniel was beginning to realize they hadn't met by accident. The hospital room felt heavier that evening. Lily's grandmother had taken a turn for the worse. Machines hummed softly, and Lily sat quietly beside the bed, holding her grandmother's hand with both of hers. Noah stood close to her, not saying anything, just present. Daniel watched from the corner, his chest tight. He had promised himself he would never let his heart risk breaking like it once had. Yet here he was, caring deeply again. Lily's grandmother motioned for Daniel to come closer. "I don't have much time," she whispered gently. "But I've been praying for someone kind. Someone who sees her." Daniel swallowed hard. "She chose you," the woman continued. "Children know where they feel safe." Tears slid down Lily's face, but she stayed strong. She signed to her grandmother, telling her she loved her. Noah slowly mirrored the signs, standing beside her in silent support. That night, Lily's grandmother passed peacefully. The days that followed were filled with paperwork, questions, and difficult conversations. Social services became involved. Temporary placement. Foster care options. Words that felt cold and official. But something unexpected happened. Noah, who had once withdrawn from the world, stood in front of the social worker and signed firmly. "She is my sister." Daniel's heart nearly broke again, but this time, it was from love. He looked at Lily, small and brave, clutching the same backpack she'd carried to the park. He realized something powerful. Kindness isn't just offering a seat at a table. Sometimes, it's offering someone a permanent place in your life. And Daniel was ready to make the choice that would change all of their futures. The day of the hearing arrived faster than Daniel expected. He sat in the small courtroom, his hands clasped tightly together. Lily sat beside him, her feet barely touching the floor. Noah held her hand the entire time, as if afraid she might disappear. Daniel had spent weeks thinking about this moment. Filling out forms. Attending interviews. Answering questions about finances, stability, parenting. Every step forced him to confront a fear he had buried for years, the fear of loving someone deeply and losing them again. When the judge finally looked up and asked Daniel why he wanted to adopt Lily, the room fell silent. Daniel cleared his throat. "I didn't plan for this," he admitted honestly. "I went to the park that day because I felt alone. My son felt alone. And she was alone too. But when she asked to join us, she didn't just sit at our table. She brought my son back to life." His voice cracked slightly. "She gave us something we thought we had lost forever: connection. Joy. Family." Lily squeezed Noah's hand tightly. After what felt like forever, the judge smiled gently and approved the adoption. Lily burst into tears, signing over and over. "Thank you. Thank you." But Daniel shook his head and signed back. "No. Thank you." As they walked out of the courthouse together, hand in hand, Daniel realized something profound. Sometimes the people we think we are rescuing are the very ones who rescue us. One small question in a park. "Can I join you?" had turned 3 broken hearts into one unbreakable family. And in choosing kindness, they had all found home.